It was supposed to be an ordinary night in our small village at the foot of Mount Mayon. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the faint aroma of burning wood from nearby hearths. I remember it clearly, the way the moon hung ominously in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows that seemed to dance across the narrow dirt roads. We were all gathered in the town center, exchanging stories after a long day of work, the usual laughter and idle chatter filling the air. The warmth of companionship wrapped around us like a comforting blanket, oblivious to the horrors that lurked just beyond our sight. It started with a distant scream, faint yet blood-curdling, slicing through the night like a knife. Everyone froze, eyes wide, ears straining to make sense of the noise. My heart pounded in my chest, a primal fear settling in my gut. Then another scream followed, this time closer, desperate and filled with unimaginable terror. The men grabbed whatever weapons they could find, machetes, wooden clubs, even farming tools, and rushed toward the sound, leaving the women and children trembling in the town square, their eyes pleading for their safe return. I ran with them, my breath ragged, sweat dripping down my back despite the cool night air. The towering trees ahead looked like skeletal fingers clawing at the sky, and an overpowering stench of decay hit us, making some gag and stumble. The shadows under the canopy of leaves seemed to move, shifting unnaturally, as if something was lurking just out of sight. And then we saw it. There, hunched over the mangled corpse of a farmer, was the creature, a grotesque, winged abomination with leathery skin stretched taut over its skeletal frame. Its face, twisted into a hideous grin, was smeared with fresh blood, the thick crimson fluid dripping from its fanged maw. Enormous bat-like wings sprouted from its back, twitching with an eerie rhythm, and its torso, severed at the waist, floated in midair, entrails dangling like grotesque ornaments swaying in the breeze. Someone screamed, and that was enough. The creature's head snapped up, its beady black eyes locking onto us with an unnatural intelligence. In a flurry of movement, it launched itself into the air, shrieking like a banshee, its claws stretched wide, glistening under the moonlight. We scattered, running in all directions, the sound of its wings beating in rapid pursuit, each flap a promise of death. I ran blindly, branches slashing my face, the sound of beating wings closing in behind me like the drumbeats of an impending doom. My lungs burned, my legs ached, but the sheer, primal terror kept me going. I heard one of the men behind me cry out, a sickening crunch following shortly after, followed by a choking gurgle. I dared not look back, but the sound of tearing flesh and gnawing bones haunted my every step. The village was in chaos when I stumbled back, gasping for air, my hands trembling, my face slick with sweat and tears. Women were wailing, clutching their children, their eyes darting to the darkened skies above. The few men who had made it back alive were wide-eyed with horror, their faces pale as they clutched their weapons uselessly. Blood dripped from my hands, though I wasn't sure if it was mine or someone else's. As dawn approached, a heavy silence fell over the village, an oppressive weight pressing down on our shoulders. We counted our losses. 3 men were missing, their fates left to our grim imaginations. That morning, we found only scraps of clothing and pools of darkened blood by the forest's edge, the trees swaying gently, as if whispering dark secrets. The following nights were worse. The creature came back again and again, each time snatching another victim with horrifying ease. We barricaded our homes, nailed our windows shut, but it was no use. The unearthly screeches echoed through the village, and by morning, another house would be found empty, blood smeared across the walls, their occupants gone without a trace, as if they had never existed. Sleep became impossible. Every rustling leaf, Every creak of the wooden beams sent waves of paranoia through us. Some of the villagers packed their belongings and fled under the cover of darkness, but those who remained were trapped in an unending nightmare, their hollow eyes reflecting the inescapable truth. We were next. We sought help from the elders, those who knew the old ways, the forgotten rituals passed down through whispers. They spoke in hushed tones about the Manananggal, a fowl being that preyed on the helpless under the cover of darkness, feeding on their fear before devouring their flesh. We placed salt around our homes, garlic by the windows, but deep down, we knew it was hopeless. The creature was ancient, relentless, and cunning beyond comprehension. One night, driven by desperation, we set up a trap. Pig's blood lured it out, thick and congealing in the moonlight, and when it landed, our remaining fighters attacked with fire and blades. The screams it let out were deafening, a chorus of agony that split the heavens, but it was too powerful. It tore through our defenses effortlessly, its claws slicing through flesh like paper. The fire did little to deter it. Its grotesque form barely flinched as it devoured another soul, the sound of bones crunching under its fangs echoing in the night. I saw my childhood friend torn apart before my eyes, his screams cut short as the creature carried him away into the darkness, his lifeless eyes staring at me in silent accusation. The sight haunted me long after, the image replaying every time I closed my eyes, a nightmare that refused to fade. Weeks passed and the village became a ghost town, an empty husk of what it once was. Those who could leave had already gone. The rest of us lived in fear, jumping at shadows, praying for dawn to come faster. The air felt heavy, thick with dread and the constant stench of death. No one dared speak of hope anymore. We all knew the end was inevitable, a slow, creeping doom that would claim us one by one. Then, one night, it came for me. I heard the soft fluttering of wings outside my window, the sickly sweet scent of decay filling my nostrils like a death knell. My heart raced as I reached for my machete, though deep down, I knew it wouldn't be enough. The window shattered, shards of glass slicing through the air, and before I could scream, it was upon me, its rotten breath hot against my skin. Clawed hands pinned me down, and I felt its teeth sink into my shoulder. Pain exploded through my body, but it was the overwhelming, suffocating fear that nearly killed me. I blacked out, and when I awoke, I was lying in a pool of my own blood, barely alive. The creature had left me for dead, perhaps too full to finish the job. I was one of the lucky ones. Now, I am the only one left. The village is empty, a desolate wasteland of shattered homes and forgotten memories. I write this not as a plea for help, but as a warning. If you ever find yourself near Mount Mayon on a moonlit night and you hear the whisper of wings in the darkness, run. Run and never look back, for the Manananggal is always watching, always hungry, and it never forgets.